The Hudson Library and Historical Society presents Chief David Oliver, an internet sensation and Brimfield's police chief, discussing his new book, No Mopes Allowed, at the Hudson Library's Flood Meeting Room on January 21st, 2014. Now, here's Facebook sensation Chief David A. Oliver.
And now to introduce our speaker. He has used his unique brand of humor to gain more than 120,000 Facebook followers for the Brimfield Police Department. The only PD that has more is the NYPD. He's been featured in the Huffington Post, the LA Times, on NBC News, and other networks for his no-nonsense approach to busting criminals, all the while maintaining his department's focus on community outreach. Somehow, between writing open letters to celebrities and keeping Brimfield safe, he has also managed to write a book titled No Mopes Allowed. No Mopes Allowed collects the best of his politically incorrect essays, sarcastic letters to criminals, humorous crime reports, inspirational quotes, and much more. Without further ado, let's welcome Chief Oliver.
Good evening. Oh, sorry. I'm loud by nature anyway, so if I get too loud in the back, raise your hand and I'll move further away. I do not like the bio section. I've been doing a lot of talking. Nothing's changed from when I was a kid. But I am very uncomfortable with the bio section, always. Every time, and it's not their fault or anybody else's fault. I just wish they'd say, okay, time for Chief Oliver, and I'd walk up and start talking, and I didn't have to listen to it. So, sorry, it's not her fault. I'm David Oliver. People call me Chief, they call me David, they call me a lot of other things. But I'm glad you're all here. This has been a very, very good time. Fun. It's been fun. I'm wired up now too, like Ma Bell. I got the microphones and cameras right over there, and I'm talking into that too. So I have some attention problems. If you haven't figured it out in the first 60 seconds of this conversation, I'm all over the place. I will come back to what I was discussing eventually. A lot of times I get out in the field a little bit and I'll go, oh, I got to tell you about this. I don't script anything. I can't do that. I can't write things down and then talk from them. It makes me nuts. So I figured the best way to do it is just be me, stand up here and do what I do, and it's been working fairly well. So I'll give you a little background. I always bring my son Andrew, well, most of the time he comes with me, and the hardest part of that is he's a stickler for not hearing the same thing twice. So we always have this pep talk with him saying, now, I've already heard this story and this story and this story, so if you could change it up a little bit, that'd be great. So, like I said, most of them aren't the same. The Facebook page, I'll start off talking about it a little bit. Man, what a ride. I am shocked. When we started the page, I talked to, at the time I had three sergeants. McCarty, Canar, and Adkins Goose was a sergeant at the time also. He's now a captain. But I said, you know, this social media thing is kind of cool because, you know, it was 2010 and iPhones and smart Androids and all that stuff. And I said, if we want to get a message out, we, the police department, can no longer put it on the sign at Town Square. Because, you know, only a certain amount of people read that, and you've got to catch it when you're stopped at the light. Because when the light turns green, you miss half the message, and you go, I wonder when the Bridge Club was, because you can't stand there, people honk at you. So, you know, what people were talking about Facebook. They said, well, first it was MySpace, and I never got into that either. Believe it or not, I don't like putting all that info out there. And I'm not a private guy by any stretch, and I'm not, you know, the NSA knows everything they need to know about me anyway. But I don't put, I don't know, I got other things to do, really. But then I started looking at this Facebook, and everybody I talked to, did you see so-and-so's status on Facebook? What's a status? Well, you know, there's some serious stuff happening on Facebook. I mean, you go through a divorce on Facebook, Get a new boyfriend on Facebook, announce you're having a baby on Facebook. I mean, everything happens in social media. So I start looking around at pages, well, I start looking around at Facebook in general, but I find out that businesses can have pages. And it's different from an account. You say, this is a good idea. I wonder if any police departments have them. So I get on, and there's a handful, but they are seriously, not anymore, but they were seriously, it was like Joe Friday. And I liked Dragnet a great deal, but a little bit of Joe went a long way. And I'm looking at these pages, and they're saying, we arrested John Smith for drunk driving. We took him to jail. Wear your seatbelts, have a great day. And I'm thinking, we do so much more than that. As police officers, there's so much more to our career, our profession, and what we do than just what you can get from a press release. You could look in a crime blotter and see that Joe Smith was arrested for OVI. What's that tell you? But what I wanted to bring in was, the stories like the guy when I was with John Pettit at Walmart. John's one of my officers. I love John Pettit. I'm not the funniest guy in my department, by the way, by any stretch. Some of the stuff that goes on there. Sergeant Dumont once, see how I'm getting on, I'll come back. Sergeant Dumont bought at the dollar store, those little stuffed animals that you push the button and they sing a song? Well, this one sang, I'm a Pretty Princess. He cut the sound box out and somehow wired it to Sergeant McCarty's brake pedal. Every time Sergeant McCarty hit his brakes in the cruiser, the song, I'm a Pretty Princess played. And I mean to tell you, for a week and a half, I thought Sergeant McCarty was going to go outside and start shooting trees. He was as frustrated as he could be over this. I can't figure out where this is coming from. And I know who my pranksters are, right? So I said, hey, Jerry. Because just to be fair, Jerry did something similar to me that every time I sat in my seat, it played It's a Small World After All. So I had an idea who my soundbox assassin was. So I said, hey, did you? He goes, oh, yeah. And I said, no, just let it go. He'll figure it out. But it took him, it was a better part, almost 2 weeks before he figured out that it was happening when he hit his brake pedal. So anyway, what was I talking about?
Walmart. John Pettit.
Thanks. Whoever said that, I owe you. Right, so I told you, I was being fair. So I show up at Walmart because I got to get out of the office sometimes. I get a little goofy when I'm just answering phones and doing budget. So they're out on a shoplifter, and I go into loss prevention, and John's standing there with them. And I said, he's stealing like $800 worth of stuff. Like, so our Walmart is slow motion looting. There's no other way to put it. They just come in and push stuff out the doors, slow. So I show up, I go, hey, what do you got? This guy's $700 worth of stuff. I said, all right, he's arrested. Now, a lot of police departments will just issue a citation for that. They'll issue a summons to appear. I changed that when Walmart came. I said, we are going to make physical arrests, and we're going to make people post bond. The word has got to be out that no matter what any other jurisdiction does, if you come to Brimfield and steal, you are going to see the inside of a jail. Even if it's for 5 hours, you're going to see the inside of a jail. So I cuff the guy, start patting him down, and as a police officer, you ask the same basic questions when you're arresting somebody. Do you have anything on you that's going to pinch, poke, stab me? You got anything illegal? First sentence out of the guy's mouth, these aren't my pants. I'm going to run with it because that's how I am. I go, excuse me? And John kind of looks up, and he looks at me and looks at the guy and goes, oh, this is going to get good. And I said, excuse me? And he said, these aren't my pants. And I said, you get dressed in the dark? Yeah. I said, keep rolling with it because you're doing great. He said, they're my roommate's pants. And I said, so you and your roommate are, because these pants look like they fit pretty good. You guys are roughly the same size? Oh, yeah, we're roughly the same size. I said, your roommate's a male? Oh, yep, he's a male. I said, just out of curiosity, why would you tell me these aren't your pants? What business is it of mine? And he said, because the crack cocaine in the front pocket ain't mine either. Now, in the scope of things, I could say on our Facebook page, we arrested a guy for shoplifting and drug possession. Wear your seatbelts, have a great day. You'd miss the whole story. I couldn't do, I'm looking at all the stuff that we see, and I'm going, this is too good. And I don't mean it, I don't ever try to disrespect, because I don't use names. We don't put names on our page, we don't put pictures, we don't do any of that stuff. But I think it's I always thought it was kind of cool that we can tell the story, some people can have some laughs, and we can move on and do whatever's next. So that's the approach I took. Now, I tease people all the time. That's for me, I'm not here. I was just covering up the mic. I didn't know what that was. Set phaser to stun. I would love to stand up here and tell you that I'm the kind of guy that saw all this coming, but that would be a whopper of a lie. Because I still have the original yellow piece of paper legal pad that I used when we were formulating what we were going to do with Facebook. And I wrote on there, engage 500 people so they know what's going on. Have them checking in regularly, have a relationship with them, show them what we're doing. I undershot that one greatly because we're going to roll over to 138,000 likes tomorrow probably. And we have been growing steady over the last year. I mean, there's been benchmarks. When I wrote the letter to Kanye, the page went bonkers. I couldn't have picked Kanye out of, if Kanye were sitting in this room, well, maybe. But if he were if it were a bigger room with more people, I couldn't have picked him out of a room. I couldn't have. I didn't know any of his music. Mrs. Chief is hip. So I had to go, hey, Kanye West. She goes, yeah, did you see what he said? I said, okay, fill me in, because I don't know who this guy is. I'm serious when I say I watch Andy Griffith, Bonanza, and Gunsmoke. That's it. You know, I don't know any modern culture. If it's not John Wayne, and it's not because I don't want to know it. It's because I have a limited number of minutes on Earth. And I got to fish, raise my kids, and then whatever's left, I got Andy Griffith, Gunsmoke, and Bonanza. I don't have any room for new shows. So, but when I talked to her, she said, yeah, he's a rapper. And I said, I kind of figured. But I did know, just from hearing in the news, that he was married to or affiliated with the Kardashians. And I said, well, I got to say something to him. And she said, you're going to? And I said, yeah, it's kind of like me, don't you think? I mean, look back. I have a great deal of trouble keeping my mouth shut most of the time. She said, what are you going to say? And I said, I don't care what he said about police officers. That doesn't bother me. What he said about my military people really is a kick in the backside. Because you can't compare being a rapper to being at war. Kanye's never had to walk down the red carpet and worry about an IED. Never. He's never had to worry about a landmine. He's never had to worry about a sniper. He's never had to worry about any of that. And I just took offense because there's nothing similar to being an entertainer. I watched a lot of Elvis. I know this. So when I wrote that letter, the page blew up. The time before that, I think in the summertime, were the ice cream tickets. When I wrote the post, if you're not familiar with the page, and I'll just give you a little background. We do this program every year. We've done it probably for, well, at least the 10 years I've been the chief this year. And we did it a couple of years before that sporadically, but I always liked it. Officers drive around, and if they see a child under 12 or under, if I see a 15-year-old riding a bike, I'll do the same thing. If they have a helmet on, we stop, turn on the lights, get out and give them a ticket. But the ticket is for a free ice cream cone. So we're encouraging them to ride their bikes safely. So I get on the page. Now, if you only read the first 5 sentences, you would have thought I lost my mind. Because in the first 5 sentences, I said, tomorrow, and I was real serious too, as much as I can be. I said, tomorrow, I am ordering Brimfield officers to write as many tickets as possible. As a matter of fact, I'm establishing a quota. Right now, this was about the time that Cuyahoga Falls, the Ticket City thing Bob Dyer wrote about. So people were on edge anyway with police and tickets. So I figured, stir it up a little bit. So I said, effective tomorrow, my officers are going to have a quota. They're going to write as many tickets as possible. Ooh, here's a kicker. And they're going to profile a certain group of citizens. Sorry, so now you got, we're writing quotas and we're profiling, right? I had to get on later in the day and say, folks, will you please read the entire message? Because I was getting hate mail. I mean, people were going, you communist pig! And I mean, they were all jackbooted thug. I was everything. I said, sir, I took calls, seriously. Sir, please read the email and stop cussing. Have a great day. The one guy I really did, I said, sir, do you have kids? Yes. Do you kiss them with that mouth? My God, I've never heard that kind of language. People were mad, but they just didn't read the whole thing. I said, we're going to profile, we're writing tickets, my officers are going to be out in force. And then I skipped a couple spaces and I said, the group we're targeting are kids 12 and under, and we're writing ice cream tickets. And you know, Now, the people who've been around me for a minute on the page, they get it. You know, they're writing another, boy, Chief, you had me for a minute. But the people who weren't there, and as it started to go viral, whew, if you only read the first 4 sentences of that, you hated police all over again. So we got a lot of play after that because when that story hit, it went national. That's when the Huffington Post said the coolest police chief in existence. And I still, if you're on the page and you see me write that, or you see me say internet sensation or any of that stuff, believe me when I tell you, I don't pay any attention to that. But I think it's hysterical because I know, I can name 7 police chiefs now who are way cooler than me. They're just not on Facebook. So, but as the page kind of developed, what I saw was we're forming this really cool relationship. I mean, people are checking it. They check the page. There are people who check the page every single day, 4 or 5 times a day. And you know, they check the status updates. They check all this. And I can see likes starting to go up, and I start seeing we have all 50 states and 38 countries on Facebook. And the International Association of Chiefs of Police does rankings. And it was funny when someone first pointed it out because we were 5th in the nation regardless of department size. They break them into size to make the smaller departments feel better when they have 5,000 likes. But us, we were out of that category in a heartbeat. And then somebody said, well, you know, you're 5th in the nation. And I said, well, they don't divide it up like that. But then I looked and started in the different categories, and I said, oh my God, we're 5th in the nation. At that time, it was New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, Brimfield. Right? Right. Those are 5 cities that are never mentioned in any sentence ever together except that one. So we start climbing up, and then it's New York, Boston, Philly, Brimfield. I'm like, man, we're going to pass Philly. So people on the page are going, hey, we're going to pass Philly. Then we pass Philly, and I'm like, we got to be getting close to done because we're only a community of 10,000 people. And I'm pretty sure we got all of our 10,000 that are on Facebook. So, I mean, we're really playing above we're single A ball players playing in the World Series. Well, then we start getting close to Boston and all this AP stuff happened and we shot past Boston. And I'm thinking, man, now we're 2nd in the nation. I mean, I just looked today. John Pettit again came in and said, where's New York at now? And I said, it's where it's always been, on the East Coast. That's kind of how our department is. And he goes, where are they at in Facebook likes? I said, and they're at 190,000 and we're at 138,000. Now they got an advantage, they have 8 million people. We have 10,000. But I think likes per citizen, we're far away. If we were a town of 8 million people, we'd have a bazillion Facebook likes, I guess. I don't know how it relates. But what I noticed is we're starting to bridge a gap because I've been doing this, it'll be 20 years this year that I've been in law enforcement, and 10 as the chief in March. I worked in law enforcement in Brimfield when people, now they wave at us with their whole hand. And it didn't used to be like that. I mean, I remember distinctly being at a couple traffic lights going, Sarge, and I'm a patrolman. Sarge, yeah, is it illegal for a motorist to give me the finger? No, it's freedom of speech. Thanks. Really happened. I mean, I'm not kidding. Or we'd show up and people just, you know, oh, you guys are here to beat somebody down. And so, and I'll end it there, that portion of it, because I got to start at the beginning. I don't know if some of you read the book or been on the page in a long time, but this is why libraries are important to me. I grew up really poor, and I'm not bashful about it. I'm not embarrassed. It is what it is. Poor people looked at me and went, yikes, dude, you're poor. I know, thanks. Wore the same pair of pants my entire 7th grade year. Folks, you didn't know, but R2-D2's here. I leave my phone on too because, you know, we had a death today and of natural causes, but that phone is attached to me constantly. I mean, at nighttime, if you know a police officer or fireman, you got to know it sits on the bedside, and when it rings, the whole house wakes up. Anyway, grew up very poor, lived for a while in the country, moved to the city of Akron when I was 12, and grew up on Kling Street, in the block between Thornton and Voris. So rough crowds over there. Was never in a gang, had the opportunity to be in a couple because, you know, they all like big guys in a gang. But I just chose to read and play sports. That's what I did. I had ample opportunity to sell drugs. I had ample opportunity to break into cars, break into houses, rob people, do all that stuff because everybody in my neighborhood was going someplace else to do that. But I tell people all the time, the thing that's, right, you don't break into houses where we live because there's nothing to steal. I mean, you're just stealing the VCR that I stole last week. But I tell people all the time, and I'm very grateful for it, if this is your job category in your life right now, take it very seriously. My grandmother, without my grandmother, I don't know where I'd be. I do not know. Every day, she's no longer here, but every day I thank her for it, at least mentally. She's the one that balanced me out. Fiercely, fiercely religious person, but she wasn't a preacher. She didn't push it on anyone, but she just always led by example. And she made me accountable. There was no lying to my grandmother. She was the human lie detector. I think most grandmas are, but I couldn't keep, I mean, did you do this? No. Lie to me again. I did it. Even if I didn't do it, I'd admit to it, you know? Like, yeah, sure, Grandma, I did it. But she really helped me tremendously. And the second thing were libraries. That's why when we had the opportunity to publish the book, and they said, well, you know, there's some personal appearances, which, okay, that you do, and you talk, and there's book signings and book sales. And I'm like, man, this is a lot of work. Where do I do them? And they said, well, you can do anywhere you want. Some people do libraries. I said, you can stop. I'll do libraries. Because I grew up, I opened and closed the Akron Public Library downtown on Main Street for a lot of years. The librarians there knew what I liked to read, and sometimes I'd walk in on Saturday morning, they had books waiting on me. And I'd sit there all day. I'm not kidding you. There were days I sat there from opening to closing. I sat there and read. I never bothered anybody. My friends were like, oh, I knew I'd find you here. Want to play hoop? Yeah. I mean, we didn't have cell phones. You know, it was the 70s, late and early 80s. But they knew where to find me. That was like my headquarters. You know, I was like the OG of the library, I guess. I don't know. So I decided at a young age, probably 8, I have a best friend, still my best friend in life, named Andy. That's who my son Andrew was named after. Wanted to be a policeman at about 8. I wanted to be Batman. I wanted to be Adam West, and I wanted to be that Batman, but it was unrealistic. I got to look at it like it is. I mean, it's an unrealistic goal. But I really wanted to be Batman until I was, 40. But I decided early on, you can't be Batman. But I wanted to be a police officer, and I wanted to be like Starsky and Hutch. Because I wanted to have that cherry red Gran Torino with the white stripe, and I wanted to go skipping across the trunk with a .45 in my hand and jump in the car. And I wanted to have an informant that was 6'4" named Huggy Bear that wore wild hats, and I got information from, and that's what I wanted to do. So when I graduated high school, first in my family to graduate high school, certainly the first to attend college, and I have a bachelor's and a master's, and I don't say that only because of where I came from. In all seriousness, the percentages were slim. That's why I'm so grateful. That's why I'm in a library talking to people and they're actually listening, except for one in the back who's crocheting. But she's heard me speak before, so I'm teasing her. She's from the Learned Owl, and I saw her. I said, heard me talk before, huh? Yep. But I graduated and I went to work doing a couple other things. I disc jockeyed for a little bit on the radio. That was kind of cool. And then I cleaned windows. I love cleaning windows. My wife loves it. I still clean windows. But it was outside winter work. And then one day I said, you always wanted to be a cop. What are you doing? I mean, since you were 8 years old, you've been running around with cat guns and shooting bad guys. And you always wanted to be a cop. So I went to the police academy. Best thing I ever did. This job, I don't care what people say about cops being underpaid. We're not. I mean, we make good money. I'm not rich, but that to me, the paycheck, man, being able to help people. I mean, showing up with a 61-year-old lady that's got a flat tire and can't get a hold of AAA. I'm like Batman, except I'm a cop. I show up and go, how you doing, ma'am? Can I help you? And, you know, we change a tire, we do whatever we're going to do. So anyway, I get out of the police academy, spend about a year in patrol. I'm in uniform, I'm on midnight shift, and I am loving it. The midnight shift is a cool shift. Ask any police officer, until they get a little older, they're like, I hate midnights. Because when you get older, it's hard to stay up all night. But like when you're in your mid-20s working midnight shift, it's like being a kid all over again, right? You stay up all night, you sleep all day. But I was, man, at nighttime, it was very easy for me as a rookie officer, because I ask right now, except for work purposes, how many of you in the last week have been out driving at 2:30 in the morning? Okay, you're the exception. You better not raise your hand. But see, out of this whole group, there's, I think, 2, maybe 4. Everybody else is a bad guy, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's when your burglars go to work. That's when people steal stuff out of your cars. That's when they're out driving drunk. And, you know, occasionally do we stop someone? Yeah, I'm on my way home. Or, you know who I used to stop in the first year? The paper woman. The lady delivering the Beacon Journal. Like, I'd stop her. I stopped her like 7 times in a month. I'm like, when did you change cars? So she finally got a little beacon for the top of her car, a little yellow light. I'm like, paper lady. And the bad thing about it, she could have drove drunk every night and never would have stopped her again. No, it's okay. We got to pass. But man, we made a lot of arrests. The shift I was on made a lot of arrests during that time. And then about a year and a half into it, my chief came to me. He was the second chief I worked for. The first one retired. And he said, I want to take a walk. Let's take a walk. Like, I just hate to take a walk with the chief, you know, because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's just, now people like taking walks with me. I like to think, like, hey, let's take a walk, okay. But with that chief, I'm like, I'm probably going to get fired. So, you know, we go, he said, we're going to walk, there's a cemetery out back of the police department. True story. And he says, come on, we're going to take a walk up in the cemetery. I said, I'm a dead man. There's an open grave up here, and he's just going to plant me. Hey, where'd he go? I don't know. So we go walking back, and he said, you know, you're doing a great job. You make good arrests, and I'm going to assign you to an undercover narcotics unit. I said, you are? And he said, yeah, we just formed the Western Porters Drug Task Force. It's brand new. There's 5 or 6 agencies in it, and I want to send you. And I said, I don't want to go. I like uniform. I like standing like a cop, you know. Like making arrests. How you doing, sir? You know, I like all that stuff. Why do I want to go work undercover? And he said, so what are you telling me? I said, I don't want to go. And he said, okay, I'm going to volunteer you. That's the first time I ever heard that word. And I got confused. I said, huh? And he said, I'm volunteering you that you have to go. And I said, you mean I'm volunteering? And he said, well, that's what I prefer you tell people, but I'll assign you if you'd like me to. And he said, I can order you to go. It's a duty assignment. And I wasn't one to fuss. I mean, I said, well, I mean, if you think I'll be okay. I said, why though? Why? I'm new, I'm doing it. He said, because you lived in the country and you lived in the hood. And I need somebody who speaks both languages. And I said, okay. So I went, I shut down all making, I mean, he said, I don't want you out making arrests, help in detective bureau, do whatever. I want you to kind of disappear from the department. I don't want you being in uniform anymore. You're going to go in 30 days. And I said, okay. So I show up down there, and man, what a group of misfits. I mean, long-haired, I don't have anything against long hair, but I'm kind of hair impaired. My younger days, I had some long hair, but I showed up down there. I mean, these guys are not cops. They're, I mean, you know, I saw the movie Serpico, and all y'all look like Serpico. You know, I want to be a cop. I want to be clearly defined. I need black and white. Well, boy, was I wrong. I really misread that, because that turned out to be the best assignment I've ever done in my life. What a job. I had a goatee. My goatee was down to here. My eyebrow was pierced. Both of my ears were pierced. My hair was over my shoulders. This was about 3 or 4 years into it. Holy smokes. If you would have seen me during that time, almost anybody in this room, except for the cop that's back there, would have tried to arrest me. Everybody else in the room would have crossed the street and hid your children. I mean, I was a train wreck in a looks kind of mode. But boy, I bought a lot of dope. I mean, no one ever said, you look like a cop. I had people actually, like they'd get in the car, I drove a big Cadillac, and they'd get in the car to sell me drugs, and they go, ain't no way you're a cop. You're right. May I have my evidence, please? No, I know. But, you know, I ended up 5 years, I was assigned to FBI, I was assigned to ATF, I was assigned to DEA, I was assigned to HUD. HUD has actual undercover agents, the Housing and Urban Development. They have federal agents who work drug trafficking within projects and low-income housing. So I was assigned to them for a while. Every acronym that you could imagine, I bought drugs or something. USDA, I bought food stamps, right? That's the time when food stamps were out, and I actually bought food stamps off somebody to make a case. So I spent a lot of time undercover. What a great time. Then in 2001, I got promoted to sergeant and begged to stay in the task force, believe it or not. I'm like, hey, keep me here as a sergeant. Again, come on back. And cut that thing, that goatee was bodacious. I mean, when I cut it off, things flew out of it. It was a nice looking, my wife hated it. I mean, and the bad thing about it is I have a blonde mustache, and the goatee grew in dark black. So I kind of look like an Amish gangster in a way. If you see pictures from that time frame, you go, hey, Eli, because it was a weird look, but it worked. So then I came back in uniform. My first day back was September 11th, 2001. The morning the planes hit the towers, I was with a judge doing a motion to suppress that the bad guy didn't show up for. And I told the judge, when the second plane hit the tower, we watched it together, and I said, I got to go, Judge. He said, well, what about your motion? I turned around, I said, no disrespect, but defendants never show up. He's not going to if he shows up, call me, I'll come back. And he never did. But, you know, we, in Brimfield, there weren't going to be any planes hit the clock tower or the speedway in Brimfield. I knew that. However, I just felt the need as a police officer to get home. You got that gut, I got to get home. Bad stuff's happening. And man, I went home, changed, got into work, and the one thing I can remember, and I don't know if you remember from that time frame, almost everyone remembers where they were, the gas lines at the pumps were ridiculous. I mean, they were out onto 43, over the bridge, people panicked. And they, bottled water and gas, gone. I mean, I think we had 5 stations at that time, ran out of gas. They totally emptied their tank. So anyway, I spent 3 years as a night shift sergeant. When I first came back in, I worked for Chief Dave Thomas, who retired. He was military and retired and went back to the military, and he's now a command sergeant major, and great guy, man. He taught me community policing. He was a multifaceted supervisor. He said, you got to arrest people that need it, but some people just need a hug, and you got to discern which. So that took me a while to figure that out, because I'll hug anybody, doesn't matter. I'm a serial hugger. When I get out at a gas station, want a hug? No? Just thought I'd ask. So I worked with him for a little while, and then the new chief took over, and I liked him, but I was miserable for those 2 years. He was already retired from another job, and he said, here's the deal. I'm going to be here 2 years. Don't get me indicted. Don't get me sued. I don't want a lot of complaints. I don't want you out arresting a bunch of people. I want you, because he knew how I was. I want you in the neighborhoods, and I want you preventing crime. I don't want you out looking. I said, okay. So I had a meeting that night with my shift. I supervised afternoons and midnight shift on an overlap. So at 11 o'clock, off-going shift, oncoming shift, and I get in the patrol room and I tell them what the chief said. And you should have seen that they were deflated. Like, we're not supposed to do police work. I said, hold up a minute. I'm telling you what the chief said. Okay. Is there more? And I said, yeah. Here's what you're going to do. If you work for me, if it has a heartbeat, put handcuffs on it. If it has an engine, stop it. We're going to regulate. I don't care. I'll follow a lawful order, but telling me not to arrest a drunk driver is not a lawful order in my book. So go out and start arresting people. Those shifts had 16 arrests in 2 days, and I was back in the chief's office on the third day. What are you doing? I said, I'm going to court. You know what I'm talking about. And I knew what he was talking about. There was no sense in playing with him. I said, police work. And he said, I told you to lay low. I got 2 years. And I said, no disrespect, but a lot of things can happen in 2 years. I mean, people can die, drunk drivers, burglaries, murders, drugs. I don't have 2 years. I can't do all this catching up later on. So from that point on, he started to refer to me as the nighttime chief. I was a sergeant, but when he needed stuff done, or somebody came to him with a request, he would say to them, check with the nighttime chief. I'm the daytime chief. So about a year into it, I'm doing scheduling, payroll, I'm doing everything. I'm like, what's this guy doing? Well, he eventually retired. And myself and another sergeant were in the mix. That other sergeant's no longer with us. And I was very candid with the board. We're governed by 3 trustees. It's a township. And I was very candid with them. I said, if you want status quo, hire that other sergeant. Because he's not going to get you in any trouble. But nothing's going to change. This department is broken. The culture is bad. And I don't mean bad, just nobody was thrilled to be a police officer. They were just all thrilled that we had enough money to pay them every 2 weeks. And I wanted to do something different. So, you know, we had some rounds and I set some conditions because they said, we want to promote you to chief. And I said, well, it has to be a couple things. First of all, if I ever make you really mad, I can go back to being a sergeant because I'm going to make you really mad at some point. And the second thing is, you got to get the restrictions off the hours the chief works because you guys have it written in resolution, which is law in a township, that the chief of police works 7A to 3P. I can't do that. I'm not saying I won't be in on day shift, but I got to be in on midnights too. I got to be in on afternoons. I got to be in on Saturdays. I got to be in on Sundays. I mean, there are things we have to do here in order to change this. So I still tease them. There's 2 of the trustees that are still there, and I still tease them that they had temporary insanity when they promoted me almost 10 years ago. But boy, has it worked out good. For the first 6 months, I was the only supervisor in the department. And then the other sergeant resigned. He came in, I got sworn in on a Wednesday, due to take over on the following Monday. And he was in my office that Monday morning saying, I want to resign as a sergeant and go back to patrol. Now this is a guy who had been on the job 23 years. I said, why don't you want to be a sergeant? He said, I can't work for you. He said, there's no way. You're going to drive me to drink. He said, I'm really old in my career here and you're going to try to change things and I can't keep up. So if you just let me be a patrolman, I'll work the last 2 years and then retire, but I can't, it's going to be too much. I'm old and I'm tired. And I said, you know, I really respect that. Here's your patrolman's badge. Bye. And, you know, for the first 6 months, I was the only supervisor in the department. We slowly started promoting. And now when you look at Brimfield, it's funny because when I used to go to training, people would say, where do you work? Brimfield. And they'd go, ugh. And now, when my guys or gals go to training, where do you work? Brimfield. Oh man! And I mean, it's just the culture has totally changed. It's no longer Brimtucky, or it's no longer the laughing stock, or not that it ever was really, but they just kind of look down on us, you know. And you kind of relive that poor kid thing all over again, where you know you grew up poor, now you're a policeman, you work for a poor police department. You go, man, I'll never get away from this. But I believe in a couple very firm things. The number one thing is, if you're in a leadership position, no matter where you are, patrol officers can be leaders. But you got to surround yourself with good people. Because if you surround yourself with knuckleheads, then that's what you end up with. For me, my motto always has been, you put good people in place and then get out of their way. Because you can also impede growth by constantly yapping. You ever have a boss, all he does is yap? Why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that, or why? I give them something to do, and in a couple of weeks I check on them. If it's not done, then they know. They know, you know what, we're going to have issues. So anyway, now we're back to 2010 through all this. Oh, if you read the page today, January 21st is a pretty significant day for us, only because that's the date the triple homicide happened. It's in the book, and I put it on the page today, but we had, if you want to talk about a ride, the first 9 months I was chief, we had 4 homicides. And we hadn't had a homicide in 10 years. So, you know, the first 9 months, when the last 3 happened, I said, this is somebody put a curse on me. You know, this hasn't happened. We had one in all the years prior. So, but on that night, and there's more detail in the book, but the long and short, some of you may remember in 2005, we had a guy who lived with his girlfriend and her 7-year-old son. Shot and killed both of them after a domestic. She was trying to leave. She had packed a bag. She had put on, Dakota was the boy's name, put on his coat. She had her coat on. Looked like she tried to call for help because the phone was ripped out of the wall. And then she went to the back bedroom to pick up a cordless, and he shot them both in the back bedroom, then stood over him and shot him again a bunch of times. Then he put on a camo outfit, painted his face, grabbed 2 guns, 400 rounds of ammo, and decided he was going to go out in the woods and wait on us. Well, when we got there, we started pushing him, and we pushed him down a road about a mile from where the original shooting took place. And they pushed him out of the woods. He entered an apartment complex where a 22-year-old college student lived named Sarah Positano. We took her hostage, and he agreed to us. When we talked, we had 2 negotiators talking on the phone with him, and he said, all I need is 2 hours. I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to call my family. I'm going to let her go. I'm going to kill myself. So the negotiator repeats that to me, and I say, I'm good. I got no problem with that. And he just kind of looks at me, and I go, well, what do you want me to do? If the hostage comes out, I don't care what he does after that. As long as he doesn't get out of that house and get away from us, I could care less. And he said, or I couldn't care less. And he said, okay. So he said, that's acceptable with the chief? And he said, all right, just give me 2 hours. He hangs up the phone, executes her. Now, I talked to him afterwards, and he's on death row now. But I talked to him, and I rode with him to the hospital in the back of the ambulance, talked to him. I said, I can understand a domestic incident. I can't understand killing anybody, but I understand spouses fussing or boyfriend, girlfriends fussing. And I understand, I've been around long enough to understand how that gets out of control. Don't anybody take that I accept that, because that's not how I feel. What I'm saying is I understand people fight. But I said to him, the third one, I just don't get. We made a deal with you. Not like you'd keep it anyway, because you've already killed a woman and a child. But I need to know. And he said, I just made that deal because I was going to kill her, and then I couldn't escape from the house with her. I couldn't take her with me, is what he said. And so anyway, he ended up, that was 9 years ago tonight, about pretty close to this time that I got the call to go into work. So when people talk about small police departments, there's sometimes not the respect paid, and it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to. They go, oh, Brimfield, what could happen out there? But then you start to realize that what could happen at Nickel Mine, Pennsylvania at an Amish school? Nothing, right? Nothing could ever happen there. Well, nah, we're kind of wrong on that one. What could happen at an upper suburb school outside of Denver? Great, affluent place, Columbine. So I think we had to kind of readjust police thinking after Columbine and a couple other things to catch up. So anyway, back to Facebook. Sorry I got delayed there, but January 21st, plus I told you at the beginning it would happen. The Facebook thing has been amazing. And if you're on the page, I seriously do thank you for it. I never thought in a million years, over the last week or so, we've been spotlighting other police departments. Actually, we started on Friday of last week. So I'll put another police department on there that's engaging in social media, and the likes on their page go up by thousands, because we call up people on our page our crazy cousins. And I tell them I usually email them the day before and say, hey, I'm going to unleash the crazy cousins on you, so be prepared, because I'm going to post your page tomorrow. And they go, oh, thanks, Chief. But then, people get to see that we're not the only game in town. Now, some of them may not be funny, but they're different than Joe Friday. They put pictures and they put other things up there, and it's not real dry, and they spotlight their officers. Everybody does it different. It doesn't have to be the Brimfield way, but police departments are communicating now, and it didn't used to be like that. It didn't used to be that you could know what was going on unless it was in the newspaper, if the newspaper covered it. But now if you look at no matter where you're from or wherever you have family, sometime do a search, just put in, you know, whoever police department Facebook page, and you'll be surprised. You can know everything that's going on. So it's been awesome for us. Now, the thing that has been unusual is I'm not used to dealing with Hollywood producers. And they're coming out of the woodwork. I mean, we have 12 contract offers for reality TV shows. Right? Oh, I would never do that. Not in a million years. The camera adds 100 pounds and I can't afford it. Right? Actually, somebody said, it only adds 10. I said, dude, fuzzy math. But, I mean, we've had the producers from a lot of shows that you would recognize have either called, emailed. We have a lot of offers, and the answer has been the same, that I don't, that's not us. I mean, I'm not comfortable. Man, we look like the Kardashians or somebody, right? And I don't even know who they are. But I just know everything I read is negative. But I can't, I couldn't do that. First of all, it would be very tough to do to my officers. But, you know, some of the people I talk to, and it's kind of entertaining, they'll say, well, we want to do a soft scripted. Like, what's that mean? Well, we script some of the stuff. I said, you don't know my people. You can't script what they say. Some of the stuff that comes out of their mouth, I wish they didn't say. But, you know, in order for you to write it and script it, it wouldn't be us. It would be whatever your idea of us, whatever you thought we were. And that's just not the way it goes. But we did, the book was a stretch for me. David Gray from Gray and Company Publishing contacted me. Great guy, great integrity, great character. Does a lot of local, regional type books. And he sent me a letter. And it was right after the internet sensation thing came out, and I was saying, I'm an internet sensation. I'm pretty popular. Do you guys know that? And everybody on the Facebook page busts up laughing and goes, yeah, whatever, Chief. But, you know, it's a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff. But he sent me a letter that said, hey, you know, an internet sensation should write a book. That hit home with me because of libraries. I cannot stress to you what a reader I am. I could tell you I'm a reader, wouldn't even do it justice. I mean, my wife was thrilled when I bought a Kindle. Because she says, does that mean we can get rid of some of these books now? And I said, oh, no. No, I only have the books that, you know, I read 1 million books, but I only have 1,000 because those are the ones I really liked. But she said, well, do you need a book that you bought at the Scholastic Book Fair in the 3rd grade called Elvis Presley? And I said, of course I do. What about great quarterbacks of the NFL from the 4th grade? Do you need that one? Yeah, it has Bart Starr in it. Yes, I need it. Why? Well, because I bought them at a Scholastic Book Fair in the 3rd and 4th grade. Listen, you want to talk about Christmas for me? When the book fair came to my elementary school, I would have never missed school for that week that they were there. Would have never missed school, and I was down there all the time. I used to, as a matter of fact, I remember in the 4th grade lying and saying I had to go to the bathroom so I could go to book fair. It took a long time, and you got a book. Thank you. Really had to go. But, you know, that's how much books meant to me. So when he called and I said, man, you're talking about a poor kid, and I say it now with love, it was rough. I was talking to someone today about, at times when I was growing up, our gas being turned off. But we had an electric stove. So we'd heat up in saucepans, big pots, the water to take a bath. And we'd dump it in the bathtub. You could never get that right, by the way. Just boiling water, you could never get it right. It's a lukewarm bath no matter what you do. But, you know, we juggled bills. I mean, we didn't. I didn't work. I was 5. But my parents juggled bills. And there were times the gas was off and the electric wasn't, or the electric was off, and I mean, that's just how it was. So when he approached me about writing a book, that to me was a personal accomplishment. That's the only thing out of all this. I don't care about publicity, I don't care about Hollywood producers, I don't care about news stories, any of that stuff. I do care about the Facebook page because we have a great relationship with everybody there, and that is a ton of fun. And I cared about the book because that's a legacy for my kids. I mean, if they look back one generation and see their grandparents and they go, holy smokes, and now they see their dad, my goal, my job as a parent is to leave my kids better than I was. So by doing that, writing a book and showing them, yeah, this is where I came from and this is what this is, you know, the plate's set for you. You got to go to work and accomplish what you're going to accomplish, but I'm giving you everything that I didn't have so you can do it. So when he approached me about the book, I said, yeah, I don't think it'll sell. And he goes, you do the comp thing. Let me worry about publishing. I think we'll be okay. So we debuted it. You could pre-order it a month or so ahead of time, but we debuted it at Brimfest on September 21st. And man, it's been selling like crazy. Well, first I'm humbled, but I'm shocked. But you know, every once in a while I'll get on Amazon and there's like 70 ratings and 65 of them. There's one lady on there who just, worst book I ever read. This guy's not a writer. I'm like, no kidding, I'm a cop. You know, I wanted to get on there and go, you're right, I've said it all along, I'm not a writer. But she said, oh, she just, and I don't, people ask me all the time, you know, do you get mad at when people criticize you? No, that sharpens me. I look and see, okay, after I get past the personal insults and an occasional F word, that isn't frankly, by the way, but I'll look and say, okay, is there anything here that is of substance? No. All right, they're just grinding an axe, let it go. But I like the critics because they keep me sharper. But you know, when I'm looking on Amazon or I have people show up for a talk at a library with a book, it's awesome. That aside, what we've accomplished in social media, I mean, listen, I get to fly to this time next week I'll be in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in January. I told the captain up there, man, are you guys crazy? He says, no, we're on the right side of the lake. There's not a lot of snow here. It's really cold, but we don't get the snow you guys get. But I'll be there next week for 2 days teaching the Wisconsin Association of Community-Oriented Police Officers about social media. On April 21st, and if you're on the page, I love veterans. Holy smokes, if you served, yeah, I back forever. I get to go to West Point and be a guest lecturer. They used No Mopes Allowed as required reading in one of their policy classes. She calls me and tells me this, and she says, she's a professor up there, she's a doctor, not the general hospital doctor, but you know, the PhD kind. And she says, I just thought I'd let you know that your book is required reading in policy 20 whatever. And I said, huh? It's not a textbook. Seriously, that was the reaction. She said, no, it's required reading. She said, I don't know if you intended to, but there's a lot of social policy issues in your book that we are dissecting and writing papers on, and I'd like you to come up and be a guest lecturer. And I said, I'll be there. West Point, are you kidding me? I'll walk barefooted uphill both ways if I need to. I would love it. And I also said I would like to tell you, yes, I meant to put social policy issues in my book, but I don't even know what you're talking about. Right? I don't even know what those issues are, so tell me what I'm talking about when I get there. Let me know whatever the social policy issues are, and I'll nod my head and go, okay, and then I'll get up there and talk. So then I talked to her today, and it went from one class to lecturing 3 classes, eating dinner with a colonel, and riding around with the MPs, a lieutenant colonel. I'm like, okay. I mean, she just gave me this itinerary, and I go, man, I got busy quick. And she said, well, you are an internet sensation. Right, very dry humor. So, but the positive thing is now I can see police departments getting away from that stuffy, we're the police. What a great profession. Now listen, are there people out there, are there cops that shouldn't be cops? Absolutely. And now's not the time where I go, there are teachers that shouldn't be teachers. I don't do that. There are people out there who are working as police officers because simply they can pass a test. The civil service, they did great on the exam, they get in the door, boom. There are people out there who could pass that same test and got on and actually want to do the job. So that's up to us in the profession to weed out the people who shouldn't be there. And that's starting to change now. 25 years ago, where you wouldn't have police officers arresting other police officers from other jurisdictions, we're arresting them now. And it's unfortunate, but we'll do it. I arrested one, not since I've been the chief, but I arrested one as a sergeant who said, you're ruining my career. I said, dude, and it was for drunk driving. I said, and I say, dude, it's just one of my things, but I said, dude, do you realize that I didn't take a drink tonight? And do you now realize that you sound like every other person I've ever arrested? I've ruined your life. Really? You put me in a position where I had to arrest you. How do you think I feel about that? I had to arrest a fellow law enforcement officer. So I think you're seeing it change along with this social media thing, where people are starting to understand. We all come to work in the mornings. We all try to go home in the evenings. Some of us deal with things that some of us don't. I wouldn't want to be a teacher. There are a lot of things I wouldn't want to. I would want to be an Elvis impersonator. I think that would be cool. And perhaps an astronaut, except I don't know that I could spin. I don't know, I think I'd throw up. That thing they do where you have to spin and you're up against the wall. I rode the rotor at Geauga Lake, and man, it was ugly. There were nachos everywhere when I got off. But I wouldn't want to be a teacher. There's professions I wouldn't want to be in. But this is where I want to be. And that's why there's, the Hollywood thing and everything else, I tell them all the time. I have a full-time job. And plus, now with social media, I mean, it's added 3 or 4 hours to my day. But you can see the paradigm changing. Where I first started, we would get people who say, must be nice to sit on Facebook all day, chief. And now you're to the point now where you can see posts on our page, hey, is school closed tomorrow? I mean, people are posting, did you hear anything about school closings yet? Or did you hear about this? Or did you hear about that? If you want to know what's going on in Brimfield, you come to the Brimfield Police Department Facebook page. And you can see a lot of communities go in that direction now, because we do so much more. I mean, we don't just do law enforcement, and I mean, we have a senior check program. We have 700 of our seniors signed up on that program, residents. We call or check on them once a month. Every month they'll either get a visit or a call, and we hold 4 breakfasts a year for them, free. They show up, and then we do the 2 Shop with a Cop programs. This year we did the first one in summertime. We've been doing Christmas for the last 9 years. We did our first back-to-school Shop with a Cop. Now, why do you think that was important to me? To have kids in new school clothes. So the first year we did it, this year we were able to take 85 kids, and each kid got a week's worth of clothes, pants, shirts, socks, underwear, shoes, and a book bag. All funded by donations through the Facebook page. We had 10. I put that up that I wanted to do a Shop with a Cop in the summertime, back to school, and we had, within 30 days, $10,000. A retired physician from Florida sent $2,000. Said, never met you, been to Brimfield that I remember. She's from Naples, and she's retired, and she sent a $2,000 check. She sent us a $7,000 check for Christmas Shop with a Cop. In 2013, we collected, I sound like the IRS. In 2013, we received over $70,000 in donations for our community programs. That $70,000 does not include anything from Brimfield. That's from people out of state, Australia, England, Scotland, Ireland, sending us money for our programs because they read about it on Facebook and they believe in what we do. And my goal now is to let people know we're not the only department that does that. That's why I'm trying to spread that out. So, all right, 5 after 8. I'll open up the questions now. If you have, you might get a boom mic in your face, just so you know. I'm not even sure where they're from. Just so, no, I'm messing with you. I'd like to introduce our 2 NSA representatives here. If you have questions, just throw up a hand. And oh, my canines are awesome. If you're not familiar with too familiar with the department, we have 4 canines on our department. 1/4 of our officers has a 4-legged hairy partner that's not human. We have hairy cops, but none with 4 legs. But we have 2 certified drug dogs now. Pseudo's the newest puppy, and he'll be drug certified probably by the end of this year. He replaced Joker, who's retired now. And then we have the first explosives detection dog in the history of the county. We didn't have one, and I was tired of waiting. Every time we had a bomb threat or something go on, I had to wait for a dog from Youngstown or Akron, and I said, I gotta get a dog. Drug certified dog on every shift, and an explosives dog whenever we need him. He works, he works just 40 hours a week, but he jumps shifts a lot. But it's very hard to drive through Brimfield with drugs in your car and not have one of those pooch's ears perk up, which is really good. We really take it to the dopers. I mean, we just do. We don't do it because we don't like them. We don't do it for any other reason than, regardless of what anybody says about drugs, drugs bring other crimes. When you have heroin and meth and coke and crack and everything else that's involved with that, then you start having burglaries and thefts and everything else associated with people who are trying to get high. And we just feel like if we can keep them out of here. I just had a conversation with a parole officer about a month ago, and he has 5 or 6 people on parole in the area. And 2 of them told him he said, I heard your name twice last week. And I said, mine? And he said, well, the police department. He said 2 different guys who don't know each other said, I don't even drive through Brimfield. I drive around Brimfield. And both of them had done long stints in prison and had gotten back out, and they just don't want to drive through Brimfield. I said, you let them know, if you want to, that I don't have a problem with it. They can just avoid us. That it makes it easier. But we make a ton of traffic stops. We write very little tickets. We just don't write a lot of tickets. Our officers are more trained for criminal patrol than they are writing speeding tickets. I just don't. If I stop this gentleman for speeding, not saying that you do, but yeah, you probably do. If I stop him for speeding, my thought is this: he's stopped right now. He's not going to hurt anybody. I may have prevented it, but he stopped. Me handing him a piece of paper that's going to cost him $150, I got him stopped. Why do I want to now hand him something that's going to cost him money? Now, I will tell you this. Tomorrow, if I stop him for the same thing, he's leaving he's going to be $150 lighter in his wallet because he didn't get the warning the first time when I said, I'm not going to write you a ticket, but if you come through here again at this speed, I will. So, if you looked at our stats, if you were on the page at all, we did over 5,000 traffic stops in 2013 and issued, I think, 4,600 warnings. So, we wrote very little tickets, but we made 600 arrests, though. So, okay, sorry, I got off. Yes, sir.
Is there much interest in using robots or drones in the law enforcement?
I think in some law enforcement there is. Some departments I know. His question was, is there much interest in using drones or robots? I wouldn't have a need for a drone. I understand the need military and some police departments if you have interstates or whatever. But for me, I don't know, 25 years from now, it may be different and I won't be a chief. I personally, the only need that we would have for him is if I had a missing kid and I needed that view, instead of calling a helicopter like I would do now, I could maybe fly it with a drone. If we ever experiment with anything like that, it would be, in that case, it wouldn't be routine patrol or, those things kind of give me the heebie-jeebies. I don't want to be out grilling and have some police drone fly over my head. Hey, want a steak? I don't know. It just makes you feel weird. I wouldn't like it for regular patrol. I think specific purpose maybe, but we got dogs too. So, yes, sir, all the way in the back.
Could you please speak briefly of the foundation your book supports?
Oh yeah, I will. When we made the deal for the book, when I told you before, I didn't want to take any money for the book. Expenses are one thing if we have expenses associated with it, but I didn't want to make profit. But I've always wanted to form a foundation to help people, kids particularly. I got a soft spot for kids. Well, I got a soft spot for senior citizens, ladies, and kids. Men, you're out, sorry. Unless you're a senior citizen. So my wife and I formed the Chief Oliver Foundation, and the proceeds from the book go to the foundation. We're waiting on final approval from IRS. And I think we'll get it within the next, maybe tomorrow, who knows. But we then use that money not only for Brimfield programs when needed, but the primary goal is to help juvenile survivors of sexual assault. And what that's going to do, if I could briefly, I'll try to explain this, and I'm not brief sometimes, but I'll try to be. After those cases are over, the judge goes to his next case, the attorneys go to theirs, the cops go back to work, and the victims kind of just left. I mean, they might be getting counseling and stuff, but there's just, bad guy goes to jail. I mean, it's just, ugh. So we're stepping in to provide programs for juvenile victims. Some of the stuff we're doing or have in the works now, for example, I have 2 victims who play in the band in their respective schools. Their instruments are older and they are in need of some private instruction. Both have been victimized. We're in the process of buying them new band instruments and getting them a year's worth of lessons at no charge to them. Horseback riding lessons, dance lessons, music lessons, art, those kind of things. We'll sustain it for a year, then we'll revisit with their instructors and their family. If they like it and they've been attending, we'll sustain it until they're 18 years old. So that's just something that that's just important to me. I mean, I don't, the first day not the first day, shortly into being chief, I had 3 words on my dry erase board that I asked people, do you know what this means? And it said senior citizens, ladies, and children. And they said, no. I said, these are the 3 groups of people in Brimfield Township. If you mess with them, you will have the wrath of our police department. You mess with any 3 of these people, anybody in these 3 groups, we're going to come down on you like a swarm of locusts. I have one female officer said, why are ladies up there? I said, well, here's the deal. I'll tell you right now, the statistic tonight, 20 million kids are going to bed in single-parent household. Dads aren't there. So we got to step in. We're the police. That's what we're supposed to do. Somebody here raised their hand. Yes, sir.
What is your opinion on legalizing marijuana?
I don't think it should be legal. I don't think it should be legal. I don't. I understand the alcohol. It's just like, it's no worse than beer. It's no worse than this. It's no worse than that. We got to draw the line somewhere, and I'm not comfortable drawing it at cocaine. I understand there are people who say it's not a gateway drug, and I understand there are people who say it is a gateway drug. I will tell you this, and I've stood firm on it. I have never met a heroin addict who didn't smoke weed first. I'm not saying all heroin addict or all marijuana users use heroin. That's not what I'm saying. But there are things, alcohol included, that lower inhibitions, and it's going to go that direction. And when it does, I'm not going to fight it. What am I going to do? Jump up and down and yell? I don't agree with it. I don't need one other legal high on my plate. I just don't. In the back.
Yeah, I understand you have that permanent vehicle.
Yeah.
Jump back there. The energy department. Does anybody keep that running to?
Yeah, the Ravenna Arsenal does that for us at no charge. They overhauled. We have it's called an armored personnel vehicle. Boy, when I got that thing, people went crazy. But it was free from the military, and it's a 1964 M113 APV, Vietnam era armored personnel vehicle. No guns on it, no nothing. And people said, why do you need that, Chief? And I got a little bit of pushback from the community and other people who said, oh, you just want to militarize. No, I don't. But I've had the experience of having an officer, Sergeant Canar, laying on the ground being shot at by a guy with an AR-15, and I took a cruiser down there, and he put rounds in the bad guy put rounds in that cruiser like Swiss cheese. If I need to go get an officer or a person, I want to be able to ride in comfort and a whole lot of armor. But we don't use it for any. I mean, you know what we've used that, and we've had it now 5 years. We have used it in the parade more than anything. The kids love that thing. Oh yeah, it's being regularly maintained. Those guys at the Arsenal take care of us. We flatbed it out there once a year. They've put a new bilge pump in it, rebuilt the engine. They take good care. That thing is a one push button start and it fires up like a dream. But you know what? We've never needed it. Hope I never do. They said, well, what do you need it for? I don't know. But I'd rather have it and never need it than to really need it and not have it. Because it took me 3 departments to get an armored vehicle the night we had the shootings. One was out of service. One broke down on the way, putting it up on the trailer, just quit running. And the third one came from Canton PD, what we call Cleveland and Akron. I said, we got to get one. I'm that kind of guy that, like dogs and whatever else, I'll get burned one time, then it's like, we got to get one. We'll find one someplace. So that's just part of, I guess, the grand scheme. Yes, ma'am.
What about tasers and the protocol for tasers? You ever seen those videos that go viral about the guy who gets into authorities' face and won't shut up and then ends up on the ground being tasered?
Yeah, I've seen some of those. I'm very cautious with watching anything now on the internet. You know, it's like that commercial, meet the French model. I met him on the internet. And some big hairy guy goes, bonjour. You know, I'm very hesitant to, now I understand what you're saying. The only thing I can talk about is Brimfield. If you get in our face and keep yapping, if you're liable to get yapped at, I mean, we're just going to out-talk you. That's what we do. I mean, we just out-talk you. We can talk all day long.
But you never reach for a taser, or you never like slam somebody against the wall?
No, that's not us. I have, the only time that myself and other officers that I work with or work under my command, if their tasers are out, there's a threat. It's not to threaten, but somebody is displaying. I have tased 2 people in my career since we got tasers. One was over 6'5" and weighed 400 and some pounds, kicked the door back out me and said, I ain't going to jail. Well, I wasn't gonna, he's too big to fight, and I'm a big guy. But once you say you're gonna fight me, then I'm gonna pull out the taser and I'm gonna try to talk you down, hopefully by pointing it at you. But no, we don't, believe it or not, what I was talking about earlier with the 1% or less of police officers that make the other 99% look bad. I wish there was a video yesterday from Rosenberg PD, their Facebook page, with one of their sergeants getting out and playing catch with a kid. He drove by, the kid was by himself, tossing a football up in the air. Sergeant turns around, his dash cam's on, he gets out and plays catch with the kid for 5-10 minutes. I was glad that video went viral. We needed something to go viral. I was gonna do a disco dance and try to have it go viral in order to get something positive happening, because those kind of stories go viral or get tons of coverage. But do you know we took 128 kids back to school. I'm sorry, I can't speak. 128 kids for Shop with a Cop at Christmas. Not one media outlet showed up. I had 128 kids at our Walmart. We fed them breakfast at Applebee's. Applebee's donated the entire thing. We took 128 kids Christmas shopping. Each child got to spend $100. I had 0 media coverage. None. And I put out a press release. I put it on our Facebook page. I openly invited media friends. Show up and cover this story. We didn't have one. So you can see the balance. And the unfortunate thing is we as consumers consume a lot of bad news. When you see a headline, a massive explosion coming up next, you watch it. You go, hold on a minute, I'll be to bed in a second. I got to see this massive explosion, or I got to see this murder, or I got to see about this whatever. But if somebody said on there, cops playing playing football with kids coming up next, half their viewers would walk out and go to sleep, and the other half would turn the channel. So that's part of our responsibility as consumers to say enough's enough. You know, let's hear some good news. I mean, we know it's not all, rose petals when you're walking, but let's cover some of the good stuff too, instead of making it so imbalanced. Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's just as parents too, you guys get such a bad rap, and it's like, I always have to remind my young people, they're our friends. You guys are our friends. You're not the bad guys. You are there to help. You're there to assist. Your job, and that's just, I think, another message that would be, as people have to get out, you guys are the bad guys.
If you're out in public and you want to talk to me, there are 2 ways to do it. You can say, hey, Chief, how you doing? And you'll probably get a hug. The second one is to be a parent and be standing next to your child like this and point to an officer and say, see, if you're not bad, if you're not good, he's going to take you to jail. You want to get my attention? Say that. I don't know how many parents I've said, oh, hold on a minute. Time to go to the woodshed. Here's the deal. We don't take, I'll look right at the child and say, we don't take young people to jail. We take big people to jail. And the kid kind of looks up and the parents kind of looking at me, and I said, I would just appreciate if you didn't use us as the boogeyman. And a lot of parents do that. I'm not, as an adult, when I am in my truck, in my civilian clothes, on my way, my son and I are going someplace, we go to Books A Million. I know it's shocking. We go to a bookstore. Or someplace else we're going. When a cop gets behind me, I get a little nervous. Still, I've been a police officer 20 years almost. And I'll go, what's he doing now? I'm wearing my belt, I wasn't speeding. why are they harassing me? I mean, it's that kind of mentality that I have to notice. I talk myself down off the ledge and go, dude, the only thing is that I'm carrying a gun, but I also have a badge with me. I think I'll be okay. A lot of it is at home. You're absolutely correct. With parents need to parent and not use the police for parents. We got any other questions? Okay, we have two. Ladies first.
Oh, of course.
Thank you. Do you see a lot more concealed carry in this area?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have an issue with it. I've always been, when I have, like dispatch, when we stop a car, if you're a CCW permit holder and we traffic stop you, we're running your plate. Before I'm out of the car, dispatch will say, be advised, code 40 permit, which is our permit for a gun. I don't pay any attention to that. Never have. Because the first time as a police officer, you approach a car like there's not a gun in there, you're not going to go home. I mean, everybody to me is armed until otherwise proven, or, I mean, and I'm not saying that to be, I'm very comfortable around guns. I've been around them since I was a kid. Some of them in my neighborhood. But I've never been scared of them, and I always assume that every car I stop, I know there's at least one firearm on scene, mine. So, I don't pay much attention to it. I personally believe, and this is my personal belief, does not reflect the people who appointed me chief. See, I got that out of the way. A lot of bad guys have guns, and no matter how many laws you make, bad guys are going to have guns. I mean, cocaine's been illegal forever. I can go buy cocaine right now, probably in uniform. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on capital punishment?
I'm for capital punishment. I know that is a sour note for some people. I have some skin in that game. With the triple homicide we had, that guy killed a 7-year-old boy, shot him 15 times. Executed a 22-year-old college student, aspiring gymnast coach. Beautiful young lady. That's my personal opinion. I think he should be executed, and I actually have petitioned several times to attend it. They know how I feel about it. I understand some people believe it's retribution, some people believe it's punishment, some people believe there should be no death penalty if one innocent person ends up being put to death. But there are people out there who are definitely guilty, admitted to it, not just found guilty in a court of law, but admitted to it like this guy did. I got no problem with it. Yes, sir.
Why do we have to feed them for 20 years?
That's the appeals process. On my island, we'd feed them for 20 minutes. We could have an appeal done in 18. And I don't say that to offend, because the last person, I don't talk politics, I don't talk any of that stuff with anybody. But when I'm asked my opinion, I certainly owe it to my convictions to give it. So, but we do have to feed him. This guy, 9 years ago, he did those 3 killings, and he made it out of the state system and is now in the federal 6th District Court of Appeals. Ultimately, we'll end up with the Supreme Court if they'll hear it. So I got another probably 5 years. Any other questions? See, she's creeping closer to me. There she is. So if you have any questions, I'm going to be here for a while. There's books in the back if you didn't get them. Folks, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And this gentleman right here is a World War II vet. I had to, and a former Portage County deputy too. So, but World War II vets, my dad was one, and those people are my heroes. So thanks again, I appreciate it very much. I'll turn it back over to this nice young lady.
We're here at the Hudson Library, and this is Andrew, who is Chief Oliver from Brimfield's son. And you were here talking to, how many times have you accompanied your father on his library talks, on his book talk?
Oh, a bunch. I've gone to almost every single one of them. I love hearing him talk. Like you said before, I tell him to try to not use the same stuff over and over again. He just does it anyway, so I give him a bunch of crap whenever we go back home.
So he has enough stories to not to bore you and
Yeah,
okay.
most of the time.
And how long has he been doing this? As far as have you been going to the talks, or the book is just pretty current?
This started probably a few months ago. Since the book came out in September, a couple months later, my dad just said, "Hey, do you want to go to the library and talk?" I'm like, "Sure," and I've been going ever since.
And are you adding your name to the book just as plus Andrew?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's our tribute in there or whatever, like my wife, kids, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm in a book.
And so, what's some of your favorite episodes or issues or experiences with your dad?
The whole Kanye West thing, that took the cake. That was definitely my favorite thing that happened. It was just hilarious. I read the post, I laughed. It was pretty good.
So is he going to start on Twitter as well? And
he told me himself that Twitter has like 150 something character limit. He said that's not enough. I don't know about that. So.
Too limiting for him.
Right.
Okay. And so he lets you come. What grade are you in?
I'm in 9th grade. I'm a freshman.
9th grade. Okay. And at school, do they give you a hard time, or do they think it's cool, or what?
All of my teachers are fans. My band director, so we get them like books and stuff like that, and it's just always that same reaction. Your dad's Chief Oliver? Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Would it be cool if you can get to go to West Point with them?
I am going to West Point with him. The whole family's going.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. And when is that, end of April?
Yeah, towards like April 21st, something after that.
Okay, we'll have to hear about how that went. So you're going to have to maybe get to march alongside of some of the students, or or you're going to be having dinner, I think, what did you said, with the colonel?
With like a colonel, yeah. I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah. You're going to have to go to a special manners school or touch up on that before you go. Make sure you've got all your etiquette and your military procedures down before you get on.
Oh, I'm in marching band. I think that might be.
Yeah, that's good training.
I don't know.
That's going to be good. Oh, well, thanks for talking to us, and this should be fun, and who knows what's going to come up next, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, you and your dad should have a good next few months, or I hope it just keeps going. He's doing a great job out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Production facilities for this program were provided by Hudson Cable Television, your window to the community. If you have comments or questions on this or any HCTV program, please leave us an email message at hctv@hudson.oh.us or call us at 330-653-2500. We'd love to hear from you.